Hello there. Remember these guys? Catfish face? And this was to concentrate energy here, but also to kind of mix things up, um, bringing an element of the unfamiliar to the familiar so that the brain has to be engaged. Well, there's a deeper level for this, but I finally thought of something that relates to fitness. It came to me last night on how introducing how introducing something that's unfamiliar to the familiar. Sam was talking about how he does the intermittent, or he did do the intermittent fasting, and that trips up the body into thinking, oh, we're not going to eat every 3 hours for, from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. or whatever. We're only going to eat for this 8-hour period. So, it changes things up and then the body has to adjust. So it's the same concept here. Okay, so back to these matchsticks things. It only took me, like 2 weeks to come up with that. But anyway, okay, so we're doing this because, yes, we're trying to keep the brain engaged, but also we're trying to strengthen the corners, because we've, for the past 100 years, we've all been about relax, 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 relax. And there's actually a bit of strength that's required in this. And Robert Dick was telling me in his, in my lesson this week, that he got to play a bit with this guy who was in Duke Ellington's orchestra, a trumpet player, and his name was Cat Anderson. And that's, Cat Anderson. And he had one of the strongest embouchures he's ever come across, and was able to do things on trumpet with control. Now, a lot of trumpet players will do things and they don't have control. And he was able to do things with control, which was, a very good thing. He when Robert would be playing piccolo and he'd be playing really high, Cat would come in and be like right with him or above him, and that's just like unheard of. So the goal with this, and another visual, and I like visuals, and Robert has figured that out, is not quite, but you almost, I'm so backwards, you almost want to have musculature like a piranha. Not really, but that's kind of where we're going, and that's kind of what he described Cat Anderson as having, is his whole, the circle of Arudis, this whole musculature, because it's tiny muscles, but he said it was basically like a piranha. Okay, so what I'm working on today, what I'm going to demonstrate for you today, is using the matchsticks and working on the corners, but also working on the center by doing some soft playing. Now, this is, and I already have a parallel in mind, is when you're doing your workout and you're just like, okay, boom, 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 we gotta get this done, gotta get home, gotta do whatever. And you're doing the motions, and I mean, you're doing them well and everything. But if you stop for a second and you really concentrate on form, like really concentrate on like a bicep curl, and you're really concentrating on isolating that muscle and not using anything else, not using any other part of your body, and really just isolating and doing a really, slow, intense movement, as opposed to just sitting there and just, pumping it. That's kind of what this is. And just like that, there's movements. This is obviously the hardest part of the bicep curl, and this is the easiest part. It's much, you're fighting gravity. You're fighting gravity. You're letting gravity do its thing. Same thing with what I'm about to do here. I'm trying to play soft. Trying to play soft starting at the top is much harder than trying to play soft starting at the bottom. So it requires a lot of concentration and a lot of focus. So the first time was much louder than the second time, and it got softer and softer the more I played because the muscles were getting more engaged. So going from there. Now, to level this up, if the flute embouchure is like this, the piccolo embouchure is like this. So, warm this up for a second. Keys are freezing cold. One more. And I'm losing that toothpick. Okay, matchstick. As you can imagine, both of those are capable of playing much louder, and playing those softly is not only a good skill to have, because there's a lot of times where you do have to come in And that's a good thing to be able to have, because I won't push it, but I mean, it can play much, much louder than that. Same thing with the flute. So playing with brute force is you're fast, just getting the stuff done. Playing softly is really concentrating on the muscles, isolating the muscles, really thinking, concentrating on your form. So that's today's.